Chuck, are you lost? You're on mute.
All right.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. I think I make a left turn at Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Oh, how you been?
Good.
You know, working.
Ask Chuck if he was lost, if he jumped into the wrong Zoom meeting or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, as a retiree, he should be, doing something else. Always a servant, though, huh, Chuck?
Right, definitely.
You got a nice video, Chuck. You got a nice Zoom setup there. You got.
Yes, my phone.
Oh, is it?
I'm just waiting. Oh, Mary's here now. Okay, good. Well, sorry that we are getting started a little late. Our special meeting ran over, but I would like to call the Adrian City Commission pre-meeting study session to order. May I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Halt,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Watson,
Present.
Commissioner Strayer, Commissioner Gauss,
Present.
all commission members present.
All right. Greg Elliott, our interim city administrator, will be taking over this pre-meeting agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. So I made very sure that I knew where Nathan's script was for these before he left, and I have it in front of me. So, all right, with you, I'll start with that, with his normal introduction. Good evening, everybody. I'm Interim City Administrator Greg Elliott. And this is the pre-meeting, which is a forum for the City Commission to discuss various issues and topics. Much of the meeting, we ask the participants mute themselves to allow the commissioners to have their discussions and to minimize any background noise that may be disruptive. An opportunity for public comment will be provided at the end of the meeting, and participants will be invited at that time to unmute and address the commission if they wish. We've talked in the past about Zoom bombing. This is where a virtual meeting is interrupted by people who fill the screen with objectionable content. If this occurs during our meeting tonight, we will disconnect the meeting and restart after a few minutes. Attendees can reconnect via the same link. We will also turn over the video of the meeting to law enforcement for investigation. We hope to conduct our meeting free of this sort of interruption, but will temporarily shut down the meeting if this occurs. Thank you all for participating. Mayor, I think the first item on our pre-meeting agenda is mine, and that's the item regarding social districts. So the legislature, by way of Public Act 124 of this year, which was effective at the first of this month, voted to establish what are called social districts in Michigan. They're known by different names in other states, but essentially it's an area, typically downtown, but not necessarily so, where people are allowed to consume alcoholic beverages purchased at establishments within the district, licensed establishments within the district for consumption out of doors. This was discussed by the DDA at their July 8th meeting, and they're very enthusiastically in support of it, and asked that I put it on the your pre-meeting agenda for you to discuss and decide if it's something you're interested in establishing. And both the chair of our DDA and Dave Thomas from the DDA are here to be able to address the DDA's position for you in a little bit. So let me explain how these districts work. The idea of the district is that you can go into any licensed establishment, any establishment that's licensed to sell liquor for consumption on the premises, and buy liquor to remove. However, that alcoholic beverage must be in a certain sort of a cup. It has to be in a cup no larger than 16 ounces, which is marked with both the name of the social district, so for example, the Adrian Social District, and the name of the establishment that sold the beverage. So as we discussed it at DDA, we thought, for example, that there could be a standard cup for the district and then stickers which individual licensees could apply to those cups that would designate that the beverage was purchased at their establishment. Once you take, I think I mentioned that the largest that cup can be is 16 ounces. Once you take that cup outside of the licensed premises into what's called a common area, essentially just the sidewalks of the designated district, you may not re-enter any other licensed premises with that cup. So you've got to drink it while you're outside or dispose of it. Likewise, you may not remove it from the social district. And so you might ask, well, how do you know where the social district ends? Well, that is taken care of by the requirement that we, if we establish such a district, have to put signs up demarcating the boundaries of the district so that people know when they're in the district. The DDA, in discussing this, recommended hours from noon to 10 p.m. daily. And they had discussion to the effect that they might be willing to purchase cups for the downtown businesses to use and cover. There's a $250 application fee to the Liquor Control Commission. They indicated that they might be willing to cover that fee for their merchants downtown in order to get them going with the program. They asked that we look into providing signage, and I have talked to Matt, our engineering services director, and he feels like he can produce those signs in-house in their shop at DPW. So it would appear that we could create those for a fairly minimal cost. In your packet is a map of the district that the DDA recommended. It's not all of the DDA, but it's an area that we felt would sweep in the various establishments downtown that might be interested in participating in that program. Essentially, it runs from Front Street to Broad Street to Church Street or to Winter, but then also follows Church over to Maumee and both sides of Maumee coming back to Winter, so as to take in Comstock Park and the Armory particularly. In order to establish a district, you need two things. You need to set up a maintenance plan, a management and maintenance plan for the district, which is simply just a plan of operation for how things will be handled within it. And that has to be filed with the LCC, though statute does not indicate that they specifically need to approve it. And then you need to pass a resolution establishing the district. It's not an ordinance. Establish it simply by resolution. But once you establish it, it will continue on, not just for this year, but the program runs through the end of 2024. The law sunsets at the end of 2024 currently. And if at any point during that time you wanted to get rid of the district, you would be required to have a public hearing in order to do that. While you are not required to have a public hearing to establish it, I think that would perhaps be a prudent thing for you to do, to get comments from those who would be within the proposed district. And if you were interested in that, we could notice that public hearing for your next meeting or whatever meeting you would consider its establishment. Kind of what I wanted to say about it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, or as I say, Dusty and David are here to address themselves to the issue.
Greg, I have a question. So since it goes to the end of 2024, what if we get a couple more restaurants or bars or something that does come into the area that want to join in and be a part of this district? Would that be allowed, or vice versa? If a business were to go out, you know, does that change much, or does it have any effect?
As long as they're within the boundaries you've established, the license is theirs. There's a particular extra license that they can buy from the LCC. That's the $250 application fee. And so as long as they're within the established district, they just apply for that license. And it's granted.
And there's not a limit to how many licenses?
I am not aware of a limit.
I have a couple of concerns. One is I'm concerned about the 10 p.m. That's noon seems really feel comfortable with something like 4 in the afternoon till 10 o'clock in the evening. I'm concerned about Comstock Park. I feel like Comstock Park should be an exception for a special event, but I'm not so sure that it's the best idea to allow alcohol there on a daily basis. So I guess I'm wondering what anybody else thinks about that. I think Gordon's talking, but he's on
Yeah,
mute.
Gordon, you're on mute.
Sorry. I agree with you on the hours. I think noon to 10 is excessive. I think 4 to 10 would be more reasonable. I've got a couple of questions for Mr. Elliott. First of all, I attended the Zoom meeting that the DDA had, and there was a discussion about trash cans and the need for additional ones, on the sidewalks to have enough places to put the trash. So just kind of throw that out for discussion. The other thing was, I had a question about, I understand that somebody can go into one of the establishments and get their beer or their drink or whatever and leave it and can't go back into a different one. Can they go to independent stores? Can they go into shops, carrying their beer? And what rights do those shop owners have in keeping people out?
It's not completely clear in the statute, but it would appear that prohibition only relates to going inside other licensed premises. Those are specifically defined as not part of the so-called common area. It would be up to the individual stores, just like with any beverage, whether they want to let people in with a drink.
And are we talking 365 days a year, or have we got a downtime during the winter?
Good. You can define it as you like in terms of the hours of operation. The DDA did not suggest a limitation.
Thank you.
Where did the hours of 12 to 10 come from? Was it picked up from another community that's already? Because I know Toledo has this downtown, in their city. Is it something that we looked at another community from another state? Seeing that our statute is relatively, it's just new. So where did we get that 12 to 10? Because I'm just curious on where that time frame came from to establish this.
I think it may have come from Toledo. David could he's nodding, so I think that's right. Not sure he can unmute himself. Can you unmute, David?
There I am, sorry. Yes, pretty much all the information that I provided to Mr. Elliott was all the documentation that I did just researching the Toledo Dora district.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And that's where I got the hours from 12 to 10. I guess when I look at the hours from 4 to 10, when you have weekend opportunities, you know, when the downtown is definitely busier on those weekend days, is where we like to see that noon to 4, where people can leave another establishment during the afternoon and walk down to another one. Obviously, during the week, it's pretty quiet usually, but you know, if the opportunity presents itself, it'd be great for somebody visiting our community would be able to come, you know, stop at Rice and Barley for a drink and then walk over to Challoner's on their way.
Is this something that has to be, and maybe Greg, this, you might know more, I'm not sure, Dave or you, is this something that has to be the exact same hours every day, or is it something that we could do Monday through Thursday is this time frame and Friday through Sunday is this time frame?
Yeah, you can set, I believe you can set hours for different days of the week, different hours. I didn't see any prohibition on that.
I think doing different days will just make it more complex than it needs to be. Understanding that just because we open a social district doesn't mean everybody's going to get tuned up on 2 o'clock on a Wednesday. So, you know, whichever way we go with it, I think we keep it simple for the 7 days a week and just go that way. So everybody knows that Adrian has, if we move forward with it, that Adrian has a social district from this hour to that hour every single day.
And just to clarify, because that was, I think, a little different than our discussion at the DDA, you said the only expense to us would be the signage, Greg?
Well, I mean, you have to imagine what the additional maintenance costs downtown may be, of course.
Right.
There was some discussion about maybe the DDA acquiring these trash receptacles for their businesses to have outside of their doors, or somebody can put as they want to go back in. But, you know, and even David and I talked apart from the meeting about the idea that you know, we should strive for recyclable. If they're going to be recollected, you might as well have them be able to be recycled.
Commissioners Halt and Strayer, you guys will have a memory of this. I believe that the commission already approved for trash and recycling bins. Andrew Munson did something either October of 17 or November of 17, right before I came on, where there's supposed to be receptacles, and I believe the agreement with Stevens to empty them is already in place. I might be stretching it on the Stevens part, but I know that I'm relatively certain, and by the head nods, I think that other people remember it too, that was a matter that was moved forward with then Administrator Horn and Commissioner Munson.
Yeah, that was adopted. I remember that. I mean, it was right when we got on, I believe, Lad and I, and it was adopted. I don't know how much movement that or actually follow through that happened, but there is a resolution on the books about recycling receptacles downtown. So yeah, that, you know, I remember that very, very well.
So ideally, all the cups would end up in those, but you know, realistically, that's probably not going to happen. There'll be trash to pick up for sure.
Is this something that you can set aside? I was under the impression at that DDA meeting that we had to set the parameters of that district and then they stayed the same. Or is this something that has some flex for like a special event where it could go into Comstock Park? So I guess that's what I'm asking. Does it have to be set in stone, like what the parameters are for the area, or is it something that this could be provisioned in during special events?
I see David nodding, but I'm not so sure the statute is clear on that. You know, it appears that you establish it if you want to. Certainly, if you want to take it away, you know, you need to conduct a public hearing to do that. By implication, you could expand it, but every time you first of all, you have to have a plan filed with the LCC that is your management and maintenance plan. I suppose it doesn't need to necessarily include the map of the district, but the resolution establishing the district would. And you have to send the resolution up to the LCC. So the LCC knows what you've established. I mean, you can do a special event at Comstock Park separate from having it be part of the social district, but I'm not sure it's all that easy to add it to the social district for a weekend or something.
And what do we do about enforcing, or what is the concern of that, I guess, about somebody leaving that social district area and walking in the residential neighborhood close by, with alcohol from that district? Is there a regulation for that? Like, how does that work?
Well, I mean, I would say I think that's probably likely to happen to the degree that you have people walking downtown. They're going to walk home, and many of them will feel relatively unconstrained about leaving the district with their beverage, it would seem to me. I mean, a thing you got to think about is, 16 ounces, that's a pint of beer. And how far do you have to walk, and how fast are you going to drink it? And if you're going to drink it super fast, what's that mean? But, I do think there's a little bit of a problem created by forcing people to stay outside until they finish their beverage, which is kind of the way the law works. They don't, it's not clear that they have to stay outside, Commissioner Gauss's question, from all establishments, but from other bars, they certainly are licensed premises, they have to stay outside.
I'd like to ask Dave Thomas, in your research, did you run into any problems like this in Toledo?
I'll be honest with you, Commissioner Strayer, that the people I had conversations with is, policing. Yes, there's some policing that has to be done, but I think it's got to come back on the business operators too, making sure that they are managing their business appropriately well. Not serving somebody that is already intoxicated. People are going to push the limits. They're going to push the boundaries because that's what they do. But I think once it is established, it'll become normalcy. In the beginning, it's going to be new. Yes, there might be some maintenance issues, some unexpected things that we may not be prepared for, but that's part of growing pains. I think establishing a district like this is going to, create a new area for people to come and visit Adrian again, and visit our downtowns. This will give more people the opportunity to walk down the streets and shop at some of our shops. I think, there's going to be a few bumps in the road as we get through this, but I think it's just, I think it's a win-win for our whole community.
I think it's very progressive thinking. I'm just looking for potential problems that have popped up other places that we might not be thinking of.
Mm.
To Greg's point, it's one pint of beer. And, if you start looking at the map, and Lad, I agree with your comment about Comstock Park until I start looking to see where the closest place you could get it, probably the Grasshopper.
Yeah.
But honestly, if you're going to grab one at Rice and Barley, it's probably going to be gone by the time you get to Comstock Park. And, so we ought to make sure we've got a receptacle down there.
Yeah. Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Okay. I do, when we were talking about Commissioner Munson, when he was on there, from what I understand, there was $10,000 set aside for receptacles for recycling containers for the city, and it was put into Mr. Horn's hands, and I don't think anything ever developed after that.
I'm going to chime in on a few things that you've all discussed. So I do believe that there should be a trash can or recycling can outside of every establishment that is selling them.
Yep.
And most of the ones that I've researched and that my friends and family have gone to, you are able to take your cup into a non-alcohol selling establishment. It's one of the perks of doing it. My sister actually goes to several of these cities just for this case. She finds them fascinating and is going to one this summer. There's lots of information out there, especially in Ohio, about what to put on your website, how to promote a DORA district, and what you can put on business signs if they don't want the cups to come into their businesses. It can be very friendly. I think if I'm doing my math correctly, there's 10 businesses downtown that can sell alcohol. Dusty, is that correct? Do you think 10? Okay. All right.
I think there's 11.
11? Okay.
I think there's 11.
So 11 trash cans extra. If there isn't one outside their business, is that a huge expense to either the business, the city, the DDA, whoever's going to cover it? I'm not sure. But these are kind of an up and coming thing. And I do think it is progressive. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of taking a glass of wine and strolling into SAS or whatever. It's kind of cool to think about. I am also concerned about the time frame, though, starting at noon. The only thing, I do go downtown for lunch with coworkers from Siena. Do we ever have time to stroll from one shop to another and drink? Well, we don't. I mean, but would other people? I don't know. I don't know that it's necessary to start at such an early time. Maybe start at 2 o'clock in the afternoons or something like that. So those are just some of my thoughts.
Well, my sister, she lives in Toledo. She's invited me down a lot to go in their social drinking district downtown. I have yet to do it, but she raves about it. She raves about just the activity downtown and making it more vibrant. You got people walking around, and as a DDA, I think that's your guys' job, is to find out how to get more activity downtown. So I think this is a great step in that direction. I'm not necessarily worried about the time frame. I think that, again, it's like people need to be responsible for themselves, you know, and I do from occasion to time to have a beer at 12 o'clock. But I shut it down early. So it's like, you know, people will police themselves, or you hope so. Time frame doesn't worry me. My sister said, you know, I talked to her about this yesterday, and she said that her and her girlfriend, they teach on a Friday. They'll be out going in, you know, different restaurants and bars. And she says, you'd be shocked how many other young professionals and folks of all likes that go down there and go store to store, just going to different businesses and buying goods and services. So I love the idea. I think that just tying it up and getting some, you know, things tied up with it is, you know, obviously is important, but I don't have the problem with the time frame. I think it's a great way to get people moving downtown. So that's just my thoughts.
I would agree. I feel like we need to leave it at noon, especially because Saturday and Sunday, I just feel like those are the days that people may eat downtown, especially Saturday. They might, you know, want to walk around. It's nights out, whatever. And I feel like to restrict the weekends, and I would be more concerned if it was that we're like saying 1 a.m. Like, I like that it's 10 p.m. because I feel like that's where more of the trouble is going to be, is if we extend it later. I feel like you're not really going to have that trouble being in that noon time frame, especially during the week. And I just feel like I don't want to take away from that weekend experience. And I feel like, you know, if we have events going on or things, it just creates an extra buzz and just we'll get a lot of more people downtown. I just don't really want to take away from that noon.
Well, I think that people, like, I have one of my managers, one of my stores, that her and her husband go downtown all the time during the day, like at 12 and 1 o'clock. they'll bring their dogs to Chomp. They'll go to Chandler's at 1 o'clock and have a couple drinks. So, but they're also, they go to bed early because they, this particular manager has to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So she likes to go out and have a few cocktails and then head home on a Saturday night. So, like I said, I'm not worried about the 12 to 10. Like the mayor said, like I would be more concerned about if you push it to 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. That's nothing ever good happens at 2 a.m. And that's, the older I get, the more I realize that. So.
Yeah.
So my opinion, nice job, DDA, bringing this to us and the hard work you guys have put in. And I think it's one of those things where you guys have, put your thinking caps on and try to get people downtown. And this is a good start.
Whatever you need from me, whatever I can do to try to help transition and move this forward. I'm open. Just let me know what I need to do to help.
Mr. Elliott?
What kind of time constraints are we under, Greg, with this? I mean, is there any certain time constraints we're under?
No, there are none. When you're ready for action, as I say, all you need to do is a resolution. And staff will have to come up with the maintenance and management plan, but whenever you want it on your agenda as an action item, if you have consensus on the particulars of it, we can have it on whichever agenda you want.
Okay. I didn't know if there was like a deadline or something like that. Okay, thank you.
And so would you like it on your next agenda as an action item?
I think the sooner the better, in my opinion, just because we've got warm weather and, everybody's wanting to get out and be a little social is in the social distancing world that we're in. And that's a great way to do it. I would like to see it on the August 3rd agenda, but I don't know how everybody else feels.
I would like, if we get a sense that it's not gonna warrant much discussion, I'd like to put it on the special meeting, July 27th agenda at the beginning if we can. I mean, a week's a week.
Well, so what about the idea of the public hearing? Well, we do need a little bit of, it's not a statutory public hearing, so there's no particular notice period required, but.
I guess I didn't realize that detail, so.
Again, that's not required. You don't have to do it. It was just an idea that a suggestion I made, could do if you wanted to also get feedback from the people who would be within the district.
Well, my opinion is we should do it as soon as possible, but we ought to have a public hearing because every time we don't, we get ourselves in trouble. So that's what I think.
So we would do the public hearing next Monday and then vote the first meeting, or do a public hearing and then vote on Monday, the 27th?
I think that the next Monday would be kind of tight for noticing that out. I think realistically, if you want to do the public hearing, you should do it at your August meeting.
But can we do the public hearing and still do a resolution in that same meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Help me understand. So what's the reason for the public hearing? Like, obviously if you want to opt out of the district, get that public hearing, but if you want to opt into it, what's just to give feedback from downtown business owners and that, like, not outside of the alcohol selling establishments, or?
Yeah, it's only for your benefit so that you can hear and be able to say that you heard from all the downtown, everybody within the district, everybody's property or business within the district will have a chance to be heard.
Right. So the people who live downtown need to have the opportunity to say, hey, we really don't want this. This isn't just about businesses. It's about people who live down there. So we have to, I think it's a good idea that we listen to the downtown residents and the businesses that aren't alcohol selling businesses. There might be some that don't belong to the DDA or don't come to the DDA and aren't in favor of this. We probably should hear their point of view.
Was the DDA 100% unanimous on this?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So we could have a public hearing next Monday. Is that correct?
No,
Well, I mean, you could, but my preference would be to have a little more time to distribute the notices.
Okay.
I think it would be better to do it August 3rd, if that's your next
Okay.
regular meeting.
So how quickly, if we were to pass this resolution on August 3rd, they're still gonna need to get the cups and, I mean, what other things need to happen? Like, how quickly can we get that district established or up and running, I guess? And Dave, that might be you that I'm asking, I'm not sure. You are Greg.
Is it okay if I speak, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So from looking at the paperwork that I've done research on, obviously, once you guys pass resolution on August 3rd, that means all the downtown restaurants and bars would have to fill out the application, and we have to send that up to MLCC for approval. And obviously that's going to take some time as well. But what I can do in the meantime is get those downtown restaurants and bars, get the applications in their hands, get them filled out, and that way we can get them all sent in once you guys approve the resolution for the district. I've already got cups sourced, so I can get cups here in a matter of a week or so. I think the only thing would be a signage, and working with your DPW, I think, with getting signage taken care of and making sure that, obviously with downtown Adrian, we want to make sure that the brand is appropriate too. When it comes to that signage, we would definitely want to work with the city on making sure that the signage is appropriate and the branding effort is established as well.
Do we have any idea on the time frame once the applications, like what is the time frame turnaround for receiving approval?
Could be a week or two. You got to understand there's a lot of cities and communities doing the same application process. So I will do my due diligence and reach out to the bar owners downtown to get the applications filled out completely ahead of time, barring, the approval from the city commission at that August 3rd meeting. And that way we can get our ducks in a row. I'll be honest with you. You as a commission can set the date when this can be established. And so you can say at the August 3rd, effective August 15th, the Adrian downtown outdoor refreshment area will be established. So I think we can set our own pace with this. Obviously, we're really excited about it. We want to get it done sooner than later, but let's making sure that we have our ducks in a row.
Okay, I think we have direction, and we'll proceed on that basis and have something ready along with public hearing for August. First meeting in August. Item on our pre-meeting agenda is the Kiwanis Trail expansion, and more particularly the discussion of policy for utilization of oil and gas revenue for that purpose. I believe Commissioner Breyer developed something.
So I sent out an email to all of the commissioners and Greg today. Have all of the commissioners seen that email?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. I think in the past, we had always talked about any citizen in the city of Adrian being able to give input on ideas on how we would spend the oil money. And so the first part of that email, I was just trying to think of questions that citizens might have as far as how they can take part in the second part. Well, I guess I should say that I want to mention that I put some dates in there. Okay, as far as all of this happening in January and in February, I put those dates in there just mostly thinking about having bids whenever need to be bid out. And I talked with Matt about this a little bit. I know that sometimes if you wait too far in the year, it's hard to get bids taken care of, or get people to actually bid for you. So anyway, that was where the time frame came in. So I guess I'm wondering, is there any discussion on that? Does anybody not agree with me on those time frames?
Me. I'm not necessarily in favor of having a application deadline of January 30th. And you and I had this discussion. So come April 1st and we haven't used the funds, no one submitted an application, and a brilliant idea falls in our lap. We're going to wait almost a whole year before we take action. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sure.
I
I mean,
agree.
should we consider multiple periods?
I
Why?
would be okay
What was
with
the
that.
thinking
but-
on that, Brad? Why? I'm just curious.
Well, a couple of reasons. Number one being we don't want to be talking about oil and gas revenue expenditures in every meeting. So that limiting it to a number of instances is best. The second one being to accommodate instead of waiting, 6 months, it's 2 months to get something available. And I'm not, whatever the dates are, it doesn't matter to me. And if it was, in August 30th or a September 30th and a March 30th, it doesn't matter. But the piece is that we only have once a year where that's valued, where we get out the amount that we can spend. So, if somebody comes in on the first period and then it's all spent and then we don't have any money for the second period, do we close the second period? So that's the touche to that, and the reason why I don't want to go more than 2.
Good points. Good points. As far as the process goes, having a commissioner or the mayor attach their name to any project to move it along, I thought that just made sense. If we have several ideas in one period, then I think we would need to establish a committee. I think that would probably be best with 2 commissioners and a mayor. Anybody have any feedback on that? No? Okay. And just, I guess one of the things I thought most about was when we have partnerships come up. And when I was thinking about the partnerships, I did put the partnerships in with the same restrictions on dates as I had with the general citizens. And part of that was because I thought that a group may already be working on a project and then want to come to us to see if we want to become part of it. So, or they may have been working on a project for a couple of years. So I didn't attach the same dates on those. But as far as a third party owning a project, does anybody want to weigh in on that?
What do you mean by third party owning a project? I'm not following you there.
Well, I guess I was thinking if somebody comes to us and they're actually putting in maybe more money than what the city of Adrian is, or they've already got a project started and they're coming to us asking for us to be part of their project and asking us to put in some money. It's actually, it's their project. They were the ones who who went out and got the bids. So it's a little bit different than us handling it right from the get-go.
Oh, it's the trestle project, the trail project specifically.
Say this, it could be, but I mean, let me say this. When I was going through and making these notes, I wasn't thinking about the Kiwanis Trail project. I was thinking sort of beyond that. I feel like we've already made some good progress and we've already had discussion about that. Actually, I'm hoping that what we're doing here doesn't slow that process down. But I guess, so I was thinking further out, but yeah, it would be very similar.
Well, I do like the comment that is made in here that if partnering with a private, that the private or third party needs to have their funding before the city committing our funding. I think that's important, rather than being on the hook for, say, $50,000 to a project that never comes together.
Okay. Anybody else?
So I guess I want to be clear. I understand the difference between a third party project. Essentially, a third party project is they're putting forth all the funds, so they don't have to follow the January 30th guidelines.
They would have already went out and got bids. They've already received bids. I put those January, February dates in there because we would have to go out and get bids. This project, they've already got the bids. Okay. So
it's not necessarily about how much money they're asking. It's they've done 90% of the work up front.
They've done a lot of the legwork, yes. Where the projects that we own, it might be, Joe Citizen comes to us with an idea and says, I think this would really be good. As a commission, we like that idea and we move forward with it. And so we're trying to give our department heads at City Hall time to do their due diligence and go get bids. Where with a third party project, they've already done a lot of the work up front. They've got those bids.
Okay.
And the understanding is the third party is going to be aware of if funding is even available for that year.
Correct. Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, okay.
So yeah, they came in like May 1st and said, oh, we would love to partner with you, but we've already used the money and there isn't any because we had projects come in, then there's, yep. Okay. I wanted to check on that as well, make sure.
Yeah, and somebody may come to us in July or August and want to get us to come on board with them. Yes, our money could have already been spent, but also they can't expect that we're just going to jump because they've have the money. We still have to do some of our due diligence. We need to be able to talk to utilities and engineering. We need to find out what their feeling are on these things. So it might be a case that even though we like it, it's going to be, it might be months before we can become part of it. If that makes sense.
Sort of, yes.
Sure.
When the third party owns the project, what are the governing rules for the bidding process? So when Matt or anyone else comes to us, they have to have so many bids, and we generally take the lowest bid. Do we have the same rules?
I don't think that applies here. I mean, they're the ones that took care of that. It's their project, not ours. I mean, in our case, if it's over $10,000, we have to have competitive bids, but that's not our project.
But it's going to become we're going to own the project
after it's done.
after it's done.
I mean, I think that your outline and your notes here capture a lot really well. And I have no, I mean, we've talked through any of my reservations. I think we should move forward with you drafting something up similar to the namings.
Yep.
I guess I have a question for Greg, and do you see any holes or serious issues here?
Honestly, I have not analyzed it to that degree.
Okay,
And I think I would like to have some more discussions about it too, especially with Greg, once he's had a chance to take a look at it.
I agree.
So is this something we should look at for the August 3rd pre-meeting, discussing again?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Plan to have review and further thoughts and maybe that you could adopt if you're comfortable at that time.
It sounds good to me.
Time running short here. Item number 3 is proposal from our former mayor for Cesar Chavez street name.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I just want to say you guys look real at home in this meeting process. Has anyone said that yet? I had to say it. So anyway, last October, I had a couple people come to me and they wanted to rename a street Cesar Chavez, after Cesar Chavez. He was a kind of a uniter of farm workers, farm laborers. He stood up for them. There was a big group in Adrian that supported him. And in fact, I've since learned that the reason he even came to Adrian was because the citizens in Adrian were one of the longest protesting groups in the country. So he was impressed with that, and he came here to honor them and to meet them. So we're in the process of trying to get this done. I've spoken with quite a few people. There's still quite a few people in town alive that were here when he was here, early 70s. So what we've come up with, talked with Commissioner Watson a little bit about this. We originally wanted College Avenue from Maumee to Church because there wasn't any working addresses there, so it wasn't going to cause anyone any grief. They wouldn't have to get new stationery or anything like that. But Commissioner Watson and I had talked, and he suggested that maybe we could do almost like a memorial street naming. So it wouldn't actually change the name of the street, but you would have signage that would say it was Cesar Chavez Avenue or Cesar Chavez Drive. So with that in mind, and the fact that he spoke when he was here, he spoke at Siena Heights University. So what we're requesting is we would like to be able to put some commemoration signs from Main Street to on Siena Heights Drive to to Howell Highway. So the goal would be to have one sign on Howell Highway coming into the city, 2 signs at Oakwood, one going coming into the city, one going left towards Siena Heights University, one going right towards Main Street, and then one sign near Main Street going towards Siena Heights University. So we get the most visibility that we can from it. So the purpose would be just to have some signs, and you see it sometimes on freeways where it'll be like a named after maybe a deputy that might have been killed in action, and they'll say this is a Deputy so-and-so's Memorial Highway, and it'll be a 3-mile stretch of the freeway. Something like that is what we're thinking. So that way we don't have homeowners that have to change their addresses on all their bills and things like that. But it will also be something that recognizes the fact that he was here and that we want to honor him in that way. So there's streets all over the country that are named after him. He actually received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1994 posthumously. And we're still seeing some of the effects today. Originally, some of the things he was fighting against was they were crop dusting pesticides and fertilizer over top of the workers while they were working in the fields. And I kind of thought, maybe that stuff had ended, but I just saw the other day, that there was someone locally looking for long sleeve shirts for some of the migrant workers in our area because their arms were being affected by the pesticides they weren't being dusted over top of them, but they were on the plants that they were trying to work on. So it's still things that they're dealing with today. So there's a small group of us that would really like to see this happen. We'd be willing to pay for the signage, hopefully work with the DPW to get those done. So we no cost this, but we think it would be a great way to recognize someone that's very prominent in the world, someone that came here specifically to talk to our citizens because of the work that they were doing. And, part of the rich history of our city is there's a lot of migrant families that came here to work and stayed. And it's a large part of our population, including my mother-in-law and her family. So anyway, I would hope that you guys could put this on the next agenda and vote on it, and we could get working on putting the signs up. Is there any questions or?
Could you say the streets again? It was Sienna Heights Drive from Maine to
So it would be
Oakwood?
Sienna Heights Drive from Maine to Howell Highway is what we're looking for. And then having signage at Howell Highway coming west, and then two spots near Oakwood. So if you're coming in on Oakwood down to Sienna Heights, one on the going left towards Sienna Heights University, one going right towards downtown, because that'll get a lot of visibility, and then one on Sienna Heights near Main Street. So if you're turning from Main Street onto Sienna Heights, you would also see that signage.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I know we're running short, but would this be for a set number of years?
I would think it would be in perpetuity, but it's again, it's not really changing anything as far as residences or businesses. It's just a memorial kind of sign that would just signify that we're honored his presence here, and we're I guess memorializing that.
But not to make it too difficult. But again, similar to what Lad's going through and what I went through, is there's a lot of historically significant people, and we've got a lot of streets, and we don't want to just start hanging signs and then also have them there forever. So this is something new, and again, it's something I'm for it. In terms of naming historically significant streets, but I think there's some details that need to be thought through before bringing this for a resolution.
I would argue that there's probably hasn't been a whole lot of people that have visited our city specifically to meet the people that are doing their work that have gotten the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
That's a valid argument, making Mr. Chavez a valid person to be honored, but there's plenty of other people that wouldn't necessarily deserve a street honored after them.
We have a new procedure, correct?
But it doesn't apply to streets, correct?
Streets were specifically excluded because there's a clause in that policy related to the maintenance and upkeep of the asset.
We're not renaming a street, though. We are memorializing it. Would that be any different?
Streets was, it's specifically not in there. So would it be different? Yeah, it would be different because that talks about upkeep and maintenance and dollars and cents associated with it. So I see what you're saying, and I think we're a bit splitting hairs, but also I think that we need to make sure that we're careful starting up something new, because it's going to be easier to take our time and set a policy together than have to take something away or paint ourselves into the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Streets were already in the charter before the new ordinances or new policies were written. They give full authority to the commission to name any street or rename any street at their pleasure. That's been in the charter for years.
Mayor Heath, it's 7 o'clock, well, actually 7:01, and we need to go into the regular meeting. Could you give just a moment for?
Yep, for public comment. Yep.
For public comment, in case there is anyone, and then move into your regular meeting, please.
Yep.
Ken Sokars, 110 South Locust. This is in regards to the social district. Most of you know where I live, and I live near the Frosty Boy. And I can tell you for a fact that at least 3 days out of the week, I'm picking up trash from the Frosty Boy. So I think you guys really need to consider and maybe make this a smaller district. The other thing that I think that you should do is create a special assessment district for maintenance costs, which would be trash pickup and any additional police calls that are for this area. That's all.
All right, hearing no other public comment, may I get a motion to adjourn?
Movie adjourned.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, meeting is adjourned. We will begin in, about 1 minute here for our regular meeting. Greg, if you would like to give your speech on the Zoom meeting right now while we get ready for the meeting, that would be great.
I will do that, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Interim City Administrator Greg Elliott. It's 7:03. I'd like to address a few things before Mayor Heath officially calls us to order. Much of the meeting, we asked that participants other than the commissioners and staff members mute themselves to allow the commission to have their discussions and conduct their business. That will also help minimize any background noise that may be disruptive. Opportunities for public comment will be offered at different points throughout the meeting. At those times, participants can unmute themselves and an opportunity to address the commission will be provided. The 3-minute rule continues to be in effect for the public comment period at the end of the meeting. When it is time for public comment, please identify your name and address for the record prior to making your statement. Once we formally begin the meeting, the format and structure will be the exact same as it is in person, and we will work through our agenda items as usual. All commission rules and procedures remain in effect. We've talked in the past about Zoom bombing. This is where a virtual meeting is interrupted by people who fill the screen with objectionable content. If this occurs during our meeting tonight, we will disconnect the meeting and restart after a few minutes. Attendees can reconnect via the same link. We will also turn over the video of the meeting to law enforcement for investigation. We hope to conduct our meetings free of this sort of interruption, but we will temporarily shut the meeting down if this happens. Our agenda is being displayed or will be displayed on the screen. Anyone wishing to access full commission packet can find it at www.adriancity. Thank you all for participating tonight. Mayor Heath, I'll turn it over to you.
I call to order the July 20th, 2020 meeting of the Adrian City Commission. Everyone, please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Halt,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Watson,
Present.
Commissioner Strayer,
Present.
Commissioner Gauss.
Present.
All commission members present.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 6, 2020 regular meeting of the Adrian City Commission?
So moved.
Support.
That was Watson that gave, Commissioner Watson that gave the motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Minutes approved by unanimous vote.
May I have a motion to pay the vouchers as presented?
Move to pay the vouchers as presented.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Halt. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt.
Yes.
Vouchers approved by unanimous vote.
Do we need to amend the, Tamaris, do we need to amend the agenda right now then?
Thank you, Mayor Heath. Yes, the request to amend the agenda was meant to be discussed in the pre-meeting, but as you know, we ran out of time. So at the discretion of the commission, if they would like an explanation, I'm happy to explain, or if you'd like me to do it at the end of your current resolutions, that's completely up to you. It's your meeting.
I would prefer you do it at the beginning right now. Thank you.
Thank you. The commission received an email from me today discussing the need to add a resolution to this evening's agenda. The resolution and memo to accompany that were emailed to the commission by Michelle Dewey earlier this evening, so you should be able to refer to it in your email. The reason that we are requesting that this be added is that unexpectedly today, this afternoon actually, we received a engagement letter from Miller Canfield with regard to what the cost would be for us to engage Miller Canfield for bond services. The reason that we need to engage them for bond services is that the project that the commission has been working with Johnson Controls on for the past year has now come to their initial evaluation, has come to a conclusion, and as you know, you're considering their proposal for the energy saving mechanisms that you may want to put in place in the city. Assume if you are to approve that proposal on the next agenda in 2 weeks, then there will also need to be financing that takes place that will actually allow the city to get all of these things done without having to have any out-of-pocket expenses until about a year later when we start to see the cost savings effect of this project. In order for us to do that, we were asked to meet with Bank of America last week, and there was a very low rate that was offered, and they have given us a specific time frame within to accept that rate. So we're working with them as well as JCI, and one of the requirements is that we have a bond opinion in order for the financing to get final approval, in order for the city administrator to be able to bring it before the commission in 2 weeks. Bond opinions are not done by your regular municipal attorney. They have to be done by someone who specializes in bonds. The city has previously used Miller Canfield for that service whenever we've needed to have it done, so we reached out to them. They have also worked with Bank of America and JCI and another municipality on a transaction that was almost identical to the one that we're working on. The cost for this bond opinion has been quoted to us at $15,000, which is over the amount that the city administrator or Greg as interim is allowed to approve without commission approval. So when the cost came in this afternoon at $15,000, we needed to bring it before you because we cannot move forward with the project and actually put a final contract in front of you for JCI or for financing unless we actually do have the bond opinion. Greg, did you want to add anything to that?
Just as you say, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing. We can't move forward with getting the Johnson Controls contract and financing together for your next meeting until we have bond counsel identified. Bond counsel ultimate costs are capable of being financed if we decide to move forward with the JCI project, but we first have to retain them to get to that point. So they're not, unless we agree to their retainer letter, they're not going to be engaged. If they're not engaged, we can't identify bond counsel, and we can't reach a conclusion as it relates to the financing piece of the JCI work.
I think I would also add that I did include some factors, some risk factors in the memo that was sent out. And so just to be clear with the commission, right now we do not have a contract approved with JCI, nor do we have a contract approved for financing with Bank of America. However, we cannot reach that point without retaining bond counsel. But if for some reason in 2 weeks, you had already approved us to retain the bond counsel tonight, and then you chose not to move forward with the JCI contract, then we still would be obligated to this $15,000 fee for the bond opinion. So that's where the risk comes in approving it now. If there was any sense that maybe you weren't going to move forward with those projects, then we still would be liable for the $15,000 fee. However, if we did not move forward, we also, as you know, would have some liability to JCI with regard to the work that they've already completed on behalf of the municipality.
And right now, we're just at a point that we're talking about whether or not to amend the agenda, correct?
Yes.
Yes, I make a motion that we amend the agenda to include resolution R20-138, City of Adrian Master Equipment Lease / Purchase Agreement.
Support.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Public comment, is there any public comment?
Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust. I guess I would ask Council Hennigan to maybe check with her resources at the schools. You all know that I'm very familiar with school bond programs. And before any school bond program, all these dates are outlined. And it just seems we're doing a lot of, where administration does things last minute and tells you, hey, it's got to get done today. Now we've got third-party people doing it. I know if Barton Mello or Granger Construction came and did that to us, we would say no to it. So I don't think you should do it. FYI, Ken Tokars.
Are there any commissioner comments to amend the agenda to add resolution R20-138? So I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Roberts to amend the agenda to add resolution R20-138. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer, Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
The motion to amend the agenda to add resolution R20-138 from the City of Adrian for the master equipment lease purchase agreement was approved by unanimous vote.
Resolution R20-131 is from Transportation. It is a resolution to approve a revised project authorization for federal operating assistance for the Adrian Dial-A-Ride and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute said project authorization. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move we adopt the resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Watson. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R20-132 is from Finance. It is a resolution to authorize the Finance Department to amend the fiscal year 2019-20 budget in accordance with the attached schedule entitled City of Adrian Fiscal Year 2019-20 Fourth Quarter Recommended Budget. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments?
Kento Cars, 110 Locust. I wanted to make some comments about the amendments. It looks like investment earnings are up about $45,000. Marijuana revenues are up about $70,000. I was glad to see that legal fees didn't go up. Inspections were down, that's no surprise. Ball field revenue was down $10,000. Finance wage distribution. I was hoping maybe at the end that Mr. Owen could tell me there was $0 budgeted, but there was a wage distribution of $48,000. Did we pay our former finance director $48,000 when they left? I'd hope to get clarification. In regards to fire was up in revenue $188,000, but I think that's the number everybody promotes. What we're not looking at is there was another $23,000 in overtime, another $68,000 in retirement, another $17,000 for vacations, another $15,000 for EMS supplies, and another $6,000 for workman's comp for a total of $129,000. So that $188,000 minus the expenses of $59,000, I'm sorry, the 188 minus the 129 is only an up of $59,000. And that's not a lot of money to put towards the pension deficit. Park wages, it's kind of interesting that ball field revenue was down. And I think Ms. Councilperson Dreyer, you go to the Heritage Park a lot. Wages for the parks were up 14% and overtime was up 29%. The ball fields look great. I just wish that we could maybe spend that extra man hours redoing the fence at the cemetery instead of manicuring a ball field to almost perfect when nobody's using it. From Fund 698, Heritage Park wages were up 32%. Overtime was up 37%. I'm not sure why that was up when people aren't using the parks. In regards to account 205, the fee estate, the projected revenue at the beginning of the year was a little bit over $1 million. We only received $980,000, so there was a loss of $200,000. Fund 267, the Rhino Fund. I'm still trying to find out where you guys got the $50,000 to pay for the renovations when we moved Rhino out of the county building. And there's a $50,000 delta in there. I don't know if that's where that came from. Under account 279, the Brownfield Redevelopment Fund, that was down 83%. DDA expenditures, I was hoping Mr. Owen could explain why $0 were budgeted, but then we spent $37,000 in contingency. Under park revenue expenses, we also had $0 budgeted at the beginning of the year, but we somehow came up with a contingency and added another $16,000. During the pre-bid meeting, or the pre-meeting, you guys talked about oil trust money. And it looks like the oil trust market change, there was a $0 budgeted and it lost $15,000. And then if you look at the oil revenues, they were down 38%. You guys projected receiving $53,000 and it looks like you only received $18,000. So it looks like the money that you received from the oil revenues weren't even enough to pay for the dog park that we bought this year. So I really don't think we should be thinking about using that money and maybe put a moratorium until maybe 2 years after this COVID is over, because you guys said before that it can be used for capital expenses. And capital expenses are a water pump at the water plant or the wastewater treatment plant. A capital expense is a truck. You don't have to do it for a little pet peeve project. That's all I have. Thank you.
Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Gauss. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
yes,
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R20-133 is from Utilities. It is a resolution to award an annual bid for the purchase of liquid CO2 at the water treatment plant. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
support,
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Commissioner Gauss.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R20-134 is from Utilities. It is a resolution to waive the bid process and authorize the engagement of Solarski Excavating to extend a new water main to Main Street. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
support,
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments?
Mayor, if I might.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Watson.
I believe Will Sadler is on the call as well. I see his name down there. I just want some clarity on this project. As I read it, it looks like this is just a prudent, fiscally responsible move to take advantage of a time when the street's already open to update some of our equipment. Mr. Sadler, is that an accurate read?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. It's really a project of opportunity. We try to have a 5-year plan, and this, as I mentioned in my memo, this wasn't necessarily in that plan, but we have to be flexible enough to be able to pivot. And here's an opportunity to get an entire water main and only pay for basically half of it. The project was already going to be done by the county, and we figured we might as well take advantage of that and extend that and complete that loop.
And so along that vein, Will, this isn't contributing to the county's project or advantageous to them. This is just simply us being a good steward of the taxpayers' dollars. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate. I will say the only thing that we're doing is that the county wanted to put in, they only needed to put in a 6-inch line on their portion of it. We're going to upsize that to an 8, just so that we have an 8 all the way across. The portion that goes onto their property into the building, that will remain as a 6-inch. So we are covering the cost of upsizing the pipe from a 6-inch to an 8-inch, which is a very minimal amount of money.
Thank you.
I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R20-135 is from police. It is a resolution to authorize the purchase of Power DMS software for the Adrian Police Department and to approve a budget amendment for the purchase. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments?
Good evening, Mayor. If I could just briefly, this is software that we already own mostly. We were looking to add some additional tweaks on it, as I described in my memo. If there's any questions, please let me know. But part of the thing I wanted to say, the commission and I met with the Black Lives Matter of Lenawee group a few weeks ago, and part of what this module does is it publishes our policies in a way that the public can access them through our website. So there's been a lot of question and concern and curiosity about those things. And now it will be something that can be accessed just going through a link on our website. So that's part of that. And I'm told that will be up fairly quickly if this is approved.
Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Strayer with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Hou.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R20-136 is from the police. It is a resolution to authorize the chief of police or his designee to apply for the First Responder Hazard Pay Premiums Program grant. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Hou,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R20-137 is from the City Commission. It is a resolution to reinstate the activity of the Human Relations Commission. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
Support.
Support.
Are there any public comments?
Two.
Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Strayer and Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Hou,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R20-138 is from administration. It is a resolution to authorize the engagement of Miller, Canfield, Paddock, and Stone, PLC, as bond counsel for the City of Adrian Master Equipment Lease/Purchase Agreement with Johnson Controls. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments?
And
I just had a point of clarity from Tamaris, please. We did have a brief discussion about this at the beginning of the meeting, but at this point in time, I just want to go a little bit further with that discussion. this would have to happen, or this action would have to happen, or this review by Miller Canfield, regardless of if we do the project, or this has to happen before the project starts, or we're doing this we need this done right now before we agree to the project so we can lock in the rate with Bank of America. There's a lot of parties involved. So can you just clarify why this is so important to be done tonight, and why we need to agree to spend this before we agree to the project?
Okay. Absolutely. I can't hear myself. So it has to be done before we can secure financing with Bank of America or any other bank for that matter with regard to a bond. And the reason that it's important that it be done now is because Johnson Controls was able to get us into a situation where we can lock in a good rate with Bank of America, but that offer only stands until early September. I want to say it's September 8th is when the rate would expire. Bank of America, we just found this out 10 days ago, a week from Friday, and Bank of America wanted a closing date of August 4th, which we quickly informed them would not be able to happen based on, one, the items that we were required to do as city staff, and two, the time that the commission would need in order to review all of that and actually make a decision on whether or not we were going to go forward with both the JCI project and the financing from Bank of America. However, as we stated earlier, we can't go forward with any of it without a bond opinion. So if we want to be able to lock in the rate that we're being offered by Bank of America, then we need to do this right away so that we can get the bond opinion into them prior to the next meeting in 2 weeks, so that we can have all the other documents prepared to bring back to the commission. And as I pointed out earlier, because this information was given to us just 10 days ago, and then we had to get all the documents over to Miller Canfield, give them time to review it so that they could give us their quote. That's why we did not have a letter of engagement until this afternoon in order to be able to present that to you. We had no way to know that it would be over 10,000, which would have been the amount that Greg would have been able to authorize without it coming before the commission.
Sure, but if we're playing roulette on the interest rate, we're being sold on the interest rate, and that's what's expediting this. Because if we agree to this, then we're out 15,000 whether or not we accept and move forward with Johnson Controls. But if we think that the interest rates stay the same and we don't rush ourselves to into the agreement with Bank of America, we just are at the mercy of the market on the interest rate. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate.
I would just add that Johnson Controls is also ready to begin their work. And of course, we're at a certain point in the construction season, and they would have liked us to have had their contract on this agenda, but we didn't feel it was viable to enter into a contract with them when we didn't have a way to finance it. And so what we're trying to plan for is to have both the contract with Johnson Controls and the financing arrangements with Bank of America on your next agenda, be in a position to take action on both of those. Obviously, the bond opinion pales in comparison to what we're on the hook for to Johnson Controls if we don't move forward with this. But if we do move forward with it, the cost of the bond opinion can be rolled into the financing that Bank of America would do.
On resolution R 20-138, I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Halt. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
No.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by a 5 yes, 1 no vote.
There are miscellaneous reports in your packet. Any comments on these reports? Now it is public comment. Just to reiterate, there's a 3-minute time limit, and for the record, please state your name and address. And also I want to reiterate that you may only speak once during public comment time.
Ken Tokars, 110 Locust. Mayor Heath, several months ago, commission went up against, I believe it was marijuana, because they had the word marijuana or cannabis on their sign. And you guys made a real big deal about it, that they should have known the ordinances, and you told them they were going to have to shut down if they didn't switch the sign. At that point in time, which is I think about 3 months ago, I brought to your attention, and I probably emailed you 6 times, which you've more or less ignored, about a crosswalk issue at the Joanne Steele alleyway and by the AMVETS. The walkway doesn't meet code of 20 feet for a parking spot. There's a fire hydrant there that's not marked. And I was hoping that maybe during commissioner and mayor comments that you would address this. I apologize for bringing it up in the meeting, but you have not responded to my emails, and I had no other choice but to bring it up in public comment. Thank you.
Mayor Heath, I'm Lynn Punnett. May I speak?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I live on Newburgh Road in Tecumseh. I was really excited to be invited to join a blight committee formed by Mayor Jacobson and Administrator Horn in 2018. Between January and May, we met 5 times that year, and I spoke at a pre-meeting study session about blight, talking about resources that people who didn't have money needed to address the issue. And then at a March 2nd in 2018 committee meeting, Mr. Glenn Preston distributed to the committee a really good book published by the state of Michigan that outlines for communities the steps they need to take to address blight. And just to point out, the #1 for this and other reports and recommendations say to look at data first. So we had quite some momentum going, and then Administrator Horn left, and it was about 6 months before Administrator Byrd was hired. And on January 14th, Administrator Byrd and I drove around Adrian. We had discussed his experience, various approaches to blight. I touched base with him many times over the months, and I understood his plate was full. Finally, in October, a small group of people met for lunch, and following that, Administrator Byrd reconvened a blight committee. I was again invited, and we met 4 times between last November and February 4th of this year. Plus, I had a separate meeting with City Attorney Hennigan at my office to discuss blight diversion. And so then COVID hit and everything stalled, or so I thought. So I guess I hope that you all can understand how a person who had been so invited and so involved and so invested up to this point, how I would feel 2 weeks ago when you announced that the commission has taken up blight. It is now the highest priority, and the new approach is to double down on code enforcement. It just really was a 180, and up until then, I really felt the city wanted community partners and they wanted resident engagement. I did confirm with Administrator Byrd after the last commission meeting and before he left that there were no other meetings of the Blight Committee after February 4th, in person or virtual. So I guess forget my feelings for a moment. The most important point that I want to make tonight is that if the city's singular approach to blight is code enforcement, without also having a fuller, more comprehensive plan that at the very least includes bringing resources to people who don't have money, then in what in fact we are doing, we are disproportionately targeting low income, disadvantaged, disabled.
Sorry, Lynn, your time is up. Sorry, Lynn.
Thank you.
Mayor Heath and Commissioners,
Go ahead.
Don Taylor, 475 Meadowbrook Drive. So on July 6th, you unanimously voted to eliminate a position from city staff with no previous discussion, either in a pre-meeting or regular meeting. Your vague reasons for doing so are suspect at best. You should be ashamed of your total lack of transparency in this process. But I have found that on more than one occasion, you seem not to be too concerned about following the rules of good government. Myself and many others in the community believe strongly we must have an active economic developer on city staff. You made tacit reference at the last meeting that you will all support economic development and will do something about it. Well, come forth with a plan. In the meantime, who's going to do the work the previous economic development coordinator did? Do you have any idea how many hats he wore? Many of you probably don't. I believe that a lot of blight has been addressed by good economic development over the past 10 years. Look at the buildings that we've been able to save and rehab in downtown, thanks to state and federal grants, all administered by the Economic Development Coordinator. How about grants the city received to demolish 25 dilapidated homes? Again, the City Economic Development Coordinator wrote the grant that funded that. And there are many more examples. So let's get with the program. Listen to the business community and our citizens. Get their input on what they believe. You haven't done that yet. That's what you were elected to do, listen to the citizens. It should be clear to all comments made 2 weeks ago how many people feel about this issue. Thank you.
Mayor, may I speak?
Yes.
Mayor, Chief Emmerich, City of Adrian Police Department. Just wanted to give a quick update. As I mentioned, the commissioners and I met with Black Lives Matter of Lenawee a few weeks ago. Just wanted to give a status update. Those meetings continue. We have great conversations every other week. Generally meet with Representative Scott Smith, Isaiah Wright, and Ashley Cavazos Frank. We've been going over our policies and procedures, and they're offering insight, and we're making some good constructive changes. We had hoped to appear in person at a regular commission meeting should those resume. However, circumstances are otherwise. So hopefully at some point in the future, we'll be able to address you in person and talk about what we're going through.
Not hearing any more public comment. Are there any commissioner comments? I would just like to address one thing that, or a couple things that I do know that during the whole pandemic time that the Blight Committee did discontinue meeting. I do understand that, Lynn, and we are looking at bringing that back immediately. And there's already talks about that, and we are looking at other things. It's not just going to be code enforcement, but there are some things in the works right now, and we're really addressing blight. If there is one thing that was really predominant out of our meetings, like I've even attended a meeting with Chief Emmerich with the Black Lives Matter of Lenawee group. Blight was honestly one of their biggest concerns, and we're hearing that from a lot of citizens. It's blight, and we are working on some things. I know that the Human Relations Commission will probably be looking at a few, because I've already been receiving some emails to that asking for some agenda items. So I do know that these are topics of discussion. I would also invite someone that has your experience, Lynn, to possibly come and speak with the Human Relations Commission, and they always invite people to come in and speak with them. And I'm sure that they would really like that because they really want to make change and they're very excited, and it's a very eager group to make that change. Also, I am looking into the crosswalk that is over by the alley. Matt has been out there. He had to get somebody, a city engineer, sorry. He did not think there was an issue, but he wasn't sure, and he was actually getting that verified, and he's not gotten back to me on that. So, and I don't think I saw him on this call, but it is being looked at, and we're trying to figure that out right now. So it hasn't been forgotten. It's just been on the list of many things of our city engineer, and he has been looking into that. And I just want to thank you, Chief Emmerich. You've been everywhere. I see you all over town supporting and supporting different groups and causes, and you are in this community as much or more than anybody. And we just can't thank you for all the extra time and effort and work that you are putting in to making Adrian a really great city, and just really want to thank you and commend you for all the extra work that you are doing on weekends and other times when you're off hours, and even your whole family coming and coming to events in our city. And thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hearing no more commissioner comments, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.